Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a client of GoADU. So I decided to build an ADU because about 2 years ago, my mother-in-law had a fall, and I was about an hour away across town and realized that it was time. My parents were getting older and I needed to be closer to them. So that was one big motivation. At the same time, I had been living in a back house in Encino for about 4 years, and I got notice that my landlord was selling. And I'm a professional, I have a job. I started looking at condos and exploring the housing market and realized that it was out of my reach to be able to purchase. And I had this idea that maybe the right solution was to ask my mom if it would be okay if I built something on the back of her property. And here we are. So by building this ADU, I think I was looking for security. I was at a time in my life where I really wanted to plant some roots down and also just be closer to friends and family. I'm from West LA, and I was ready to come back to this side of town again. And so it made sense in a lot of ways. About a year ago, my dad's health took a turn, and I honestly don't know what I would have done in terms of just my ability to caretake for him had I not had this place. So it's meant be there for my family because I'm so close. So before I built, I knew that it was critically important to find a contractor who I trusted. I kept saying that finding a contractor was kind of like the Wild West. All you hear are these horror stories about people who don't finish jobs and are untrustworthy and don't come in budget, and it goes 6 months over the timeline. And so I spent a lot of time up front making sure that I could find somebody who I trusted and would get the job done. So I talked to, I think, four or five different contractors. The first guy was wonderful and came in so far over budget, it was crazy, like 3 times what Gil's quote was. And then there were 2 other people who I remember couldn't give me a number. Yeah, it was this kind of cart before horse dance of, they needed to see finished plans before they could give me any indication of how much the job was gonna cost. And I wasn't going to start the job without knowing how much it was gonna cost. So that's really what sold me on Gil. He came in, he was super clear about what his quote was going to be and what he could promise for that. So he wasn't the cheapest quote, but it was in the range of what I felt was fair. What I had been hearing in my research was kind of the asking amount per square foot. And he was really clear about timelines, expectations. He just felt very well organized, and he was going to come in and make good on his promises. Gil came in right at budget. I think I made some choices that made things a little bit more expensive. I ended up splurging in certain ways, but in terms of what the initial quote was and what the final figure was in terms of his job, there were no extra charges. So this was my first time building anything. So I didn't have a personal experience, but I think all I've ever heard from other people is getting into bad situations with contractors. So the actual process of the build was quite efficient, I would say. We had a really great working relationship. I decided that I was going to source all of the finished materials, And so that was a big job for me to constantly be sourcing. And I'm a very thrifty person, but I don't want to sacrifice style. So I did a lot of work on my end, sourcing things on Facebook Marketplace and going to outlets and, trying to find the highest quality materials that I could for the least amount of cost. And meanwhile, the Go ADU team was hustling. They were so efficient in their work. And also, what lovely people. Ugo, I think we were all really sad when the job ended and Ugo wasn't gonna be around anymore. So they were great to have around. They always cleaned up after themselves and were, here when they needed to be. I love this space so much. I think one of my favorite things is the height. The ceilings and the natural light are so beautiful. I also have never had a dishwasher before, and so I have a dishwasher and I feel like a real grown-up. I also love the skylight in the bathroom. I think my bathroom turned out super beautiful. It's just super spacious in there, and the shower is really clean and luxurious. And I went with kind of a simple, modern, clean aesthetic, and I think it really showcases all of our furniture and our art, and we feel really comfortable here. My perception of the future, I think, I don't know that it's changed necessarily, but I think I feel good knowing that I have some place that's mine. It feels really good to know that I am established on the side of town that I grew up in and close to family. And looking forward to future chapters. There's some things that we'll need to figure out if we expand our family. My mom and I have talked at maybe at a certain point we might swap, and she moves back here and I take over the front house with my husband and a kid. So we'll see what happens, but it just gives me options, which I'm really grateful for. I would say if you have the space to build, you are so lucky and go for it. I mean, to be able to custom build a home of my own at a price that I can afford, that's not something that everybody can do. As I said, it's given me kind of a new level of security. So go for it. If I were to describe Gil, I would say that he is fair, he is professional, he is caring. I think he really cares about what he does. And I think he really loves offering this service to people, and that shows in the experience that you have as a client and a member of the Go ADU team. Yes, we definitely had some issues with materials. I ordered doors from Lowe's and they got delayed. I am forgetting now exactly how long, but it was like 2 months or something. I went with 10-foot ceilings, I think, and so I needed extra tall doors. And yeah, I put in an order. It said they were going to be there by a certain date, and then that got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And that impacted a lot of the finishing that the team here could do. So we had to wait on certain trims and final painting, things like that. I think installing floors may have been impacted a little bit, but they did as much as they could to still keep things moving.